Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Sir, could you pretend to be my father, just for one day? In the bustling city of New York, the incessant tumult seemed punctuated by the ballet of cars, the hurried conversations of passers-by, and the click of heels on the concrete sidewalks. In the heart of the financial district, where dreams of power and money took shape, stood the imposing headquarters of Whitaker Industries. This building, all glass and steel, reflected the midday sun like a modern jewel, dominating the skyline with a cold majesty. Inside, in an office at the top of the tower, the chairman and CEO James Whitaker faced a mountain of files. The 52-year-old was the epitome of success, a slender figure, a crisp gray tailored suit, a neatly knotted tie, and perfectly styled salt and pepper hair. But behind the neat facade lay a man worn down by years of bitter struggle, tense negotiations, and personal sacrifice. James had begun his career in a modest Brooklyn apartment, the only son of a single mother who had instilled in him a love of hard work and discipline. He had worked his way up, brick by brick, climbing the ladder until he founded his own industrial empire, capable of rivaling the largest multinationals. Yet, in this luxurious office, surrounded by screens and phones, he felt strangely alone. His gaze, often hard and focused during meetings, betrayed a deep melancholy. He had never known the sweetness of a united family, nor the warmth of a loving home. His work had consumed him, gradually eliminating any room for personal life. His few relationships had faded, his friends had drifted apart, and his days were punctuated by professional obligations rather than moments of simple happiness. Just a few blocks away, in a much more modest neighborhood, there was a small apartment on the 4th floor of an old red brick building. There lived Lily Anderson, a 9-year-old girl, whose world seemed 1,000 miles away from the grandeur of the skyscrapers. Lily shared this modest space with her Aunt Margaret, a sweet but tired woman in her 40s, doing her best to support them with a job as a cashier at a convenience store. Their apartment, though cramped, was a refuge filled with memories and thoughtful touches, drawings on the walls, worn stuffed animals on the bed, and dim light filtering through the worn curtains. Since the tragic loss of her parents in a car accident when she was 6, Lily had lived in silence shattered by hazy memories and unanswered questions. She vaguely remembered a man with a tender smile, her father, whom she had never really known, and a mother who sang lullabies to her until she fell asleep. Despite this immense absence, Lily demonstrated remarkable resilience. Every day, she woke up with a fragile smile, carrying within her a faint hope. She knew her life wasn't easy, but she refused to let sadness overwhelm her. At school, she was attentive, kind to her classmates, and often silent, as if she carried a secret that no one should guess. Margaret, though loving, was often absent, overwhelmed by long work hours. She could only offer Lily a simple home, but she did everything she could to ensure the little girl knew she was not alone. Yet every night, when the lights went out and the house grew silent, Lily felt that emptiness, that lack of a father, of a complete family, slowly gnawing at her. One Tuesday morning in April, the soft rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains of Lily Anderson's modest apartment. The little girl, still sleepy, dragged herself out of bed with a newfound resolve. Today was not a day like any other. Father's Day was fast approaching, and at school, everyone was already talking about the gifts, the handmade cards, and, above all, the warm presence of a loving dad. Lily, for her part, felt a lump form in her throat every time the subject came up. She knew she wouldn't have a father to support her, nor to accompany her to this celebration. But this year, something had changed inside her, a newfound courage, a bold idea. She had decided to act. In her small, trembling hands, she clutched a drawing she had carefully made the day before, a tree with strong roots, with 2 large, protective hands intertwining above it. Beneath it, in clumsy letters, she had written, "For my daddy, even though I don't know him." After a frugal breakfast, Margaret gave him a kiss on the forehead, busy packing her bag. "Good luck, Lily," she murmured with a tired smile. "You'll see, everything will be fine." The little girl stepped out into the cool morning air, her light pink backpack securely in place, her drawing protected against her heart. She took the crowded subway, clutching her paper to her like a talisman. The journey seemed endless, each stop bringing her closer to an unknown world. Arriving in the city center, she found herself in front of immense glass and steel buildings, modern giants that seemed to crush passers-by from their height. There, on the corner of the street, stood the imposing edifice of Whitaker Industries. Its massive doors seemed forbidden to mere mortals, and few dared to venture into this sanctuary of walk-in business. Lily, her heart pounding, pushed open the front door. The interior was a stark contrast to her small apartment: gleaming marble floors, walls adorned with abstract paintings, dim lighting, and a hushed atmosphere of importance and seriousness. She walked forward, her eyes wide open, to the counter where a secretary in a cream-colored suit looked at her in surprise. "Hello," said Lily, her voice clear despite her nervousness. "I would like to see Mr. Whitaker." "Are you all alone, little one?" the secretary asked doubtfully. "Yes," Lily replied, clutching her drawing. "It's important." After a moment's hesitation, the woman called discreetly on the phone, then let her pass, pointing her in the direction of the elevators. On the top floor, outside the massive door of the CEO's office, Lily felt her breath hitch. She placed a trembling hand on the handle, took a deep breath, then knocked gently. On the other side, James Whitaker, absorbed in reading a report, looked up. He hadn't expected to see this small, shy figure, dressed in a simple dress and with a neatly tied braid in her hair. Lily looked up at him, her eyes full of hope and vulnerability. In a voice barely audible, but filled with an unsuspected inner strength, she said, "Sir, could you pretend to be my father, just for one day?" James stood there for a long moment, unable to tear his eyes away from the little girl. His mind, accustomed to numbers, contracts, and strategies, struggled to grasp the heartbreaking simplicity of her request. It seemed like a scene from a fairy tale, and yet here, in this cold, impersonal office, it was reality before him, in the form of a fragile and courageous little being. In Lily's eyes, James saw something he hadn't seen in years: the pure distress of a child asking for nothing more than a little fatherly love, a little attention, a reassuring presence. A request so humble, yet so meaningful. A strange feeling rose within him, a mixture of surprise, compassion, and painful nostalgia. He recalled his own childhood memories, the absence of his father, a distant and busy man who never found the time. He remembered the long nights he had cried alone, the moments when he so much wished for a warm hand to reassure him. His voice became soft, almost fragile. He didn't want to scare Lily, or break this moment of innocence. "Why do you want me to be your father, Lily?" he asked, his eyes searching for the hidden reasons behind this request. Lily looked down, nervously playing with the corner of her drawing. Her voice trembled a little, as if she had to summon all her courage from her words. "Because tomorrow is Father's Day at school," she explained. "All my classmates will have their dads with them, except me. I don't want to be the only one without a father. Just for one day, just so no one looks at me differently." Silence fell again, but this time it was charged with emotion. James felt a tear slowly roll down his cheek, despite himself. This tear reflected all his buried tenderness, everything he had ignored or repressed for so many years. He stood up slowly, the gravity of the moment touching him deeply. Then, to show Lily he understood the importance of what she was asking, he gently knelt down to her level. Their eyes met, and he smiled with a new, almost fatherly gentleness. "Very well, Lily. Tomorrow, I will be your father." This promise, simple and sincere, marked the beginning of a new chapter for both of them. The next morning, James Whitaker got up earlier than usual. His schedule, usually filled with meetings and international calls, remained empty that day. For the first time in years, he wasn't on his way to a conference room or a trading floor, but to a modest elementary school somewhere in southern Manhattan. He left behind his Italian suits and expensive watches. That morning, he put on a light blue shirt, plain jeans, and a simple jacket. In the mirror, he struggled to recognize himself, not because of his clothes, but because of the expression on his face. There was something gentle, alive, human. In front of the school, parents were chatting and smiling, holding their children's hands. James stood in his car for a moment, his gaze lost. He had never set foot in a school since his own childhood. But when he saw Lily waiting on the steps, a small pink beret in her hair and a shy smile on her lips, her hesitation vanished. He went out, approached, and held out his hand. "Are you ready, miss?" he asked with a warm smile. "Yes," Lily replied, slipping her small hand into his. She was trembling a little, but he squeezed it gently, as if to say, "I am here." Together, they walked down the school corridor under the curious gaze of children and teachers. Some students whispered, "Is this Lily's dad? He seems nice. He's super tall, he looks like an actor." Lily, usually reserved, walked with her head held high. For once, she didn't have to make up stories or dodge questions. Today, she had a dad. In the classroom, the activities began. The children had to introduce their fathers and share a moment together. When Lily's turn came, she looked up at James. He gave her a discreet wink. "My dad, he's very busy, but he came today just for me. He likes trees, leather notebooks, and he really listens when I talk." A tender silence fell. James felt a lump in his throat. He'd never thought a child would talk about him like that, and it affected him far more than a signed contract or a successful fundraiser. They had lunch together in the cafeteria. James, accustomed to Michelin-starred restaurants, was amused by the children's school pizzas, cartons of orange juice, and unfiltered conversations. He listened to Lily tell him how she wanted to become an architect to build houses, where children would never be afraid to be alone. Every word she spoke seemed to open a door in him that had long remained closed. He no longer looked at the world with the same eyes. In the afternoon, the children drew their family. Lily drew two figures, a little girl in a polka-dot dress and a man in a blue shirt holding a notebook. On the drawing, she wrote in clumsy letters, "Papa James." At the end of the day, just before leaving, James knelt down beside her and took out of his pocket a small notebook with a brown leather cover, hand-engraved. He handed it to her, moved. Inside, he had carefully written, "For my daughter, who deserves all the love in the world. May this notebook hold all your dreams, and may I be there to see them come true." Lily hugged him like a treasure. No words were exchanged, but their glances were enough. This day was more than just an act of kindness. It was a turning point. Touched by Lily's story and the silent devotion of Margaret, James asked to meet her. They had coffee at a small local bistro. There, he offered to cover Lily's tuition, fund extracurricular activities, and even help them move to a larger, better-located apartment. Margaret, initially suspicious, quickly realized that this man wasn't looking for recognition or control, only a way to fix something, perhaps in himself as much as in Lily's life. As the weeks passed, James became even more involved. He sometimes picked Lily up from school, took her to museums, architectural exhibitions, and the library. He attended her first school play, where she played a magical tree. He encouraged her, listened to her, and watched her grow. And Lily, for her part, blossomed. She laughed louder, slept more peacefully, asked 1,000 questions, and wrote in her notebook every night. She often said to Margaret, "Do you think that one day it won't be just for a day?" "One day," James answered him gently. "What if we made this day a whole life?" A few months later, on an autumn evening, as orange leaves swayed in the breeze outside the Whittaker mansion's floor-to-ceiling windows, James hosted a private dinner party in the warmly decorated dining room. The soft candlelight warmed the atmosphere, and framed photos of shared moments now adorned the sideboard, Lily on James's shoulders at the zoo, a clumsy drawing pinned to the fridge with the words, "Me and my dad." That evening, Lily wore a pretty burgundy velvet dress given to her by James. She laughed as she told a school story, her mouth full of gratin, while James, in his apron, proudly served his dish. He had tried a lasagna recipe for the occasion. As the meal drew to a close, James stood up slowly, visibly moved. He placed a small box in front of Lily. Curious, she opened it, discovering inside a finely engraved gold locket, with a photo of the two of them on the inside and, on the back, an inscription. chosen by the heart, forever. He then knelt beside her, looking at her tenderly. Lily. I don't want to be a father for just a day, or even for a few moments. I want to be your father for life. If you're willing, I'd like to adopt you. A suspended silence filled the room. Lily's mouth hung open, her eyes filling with tears. She jumped up, her small chair gently falling behind her, and leaped into James's arms, embracing him with all her might. Yes. I want you to be my daddy forever. They remained like this for a long time, pressed against each other, two hearts once solitary now bound by a promise stronger than blood, that of a sincere love, born of tenderness, listening, and a courageous gesture. This moment marked the beginning of a new adventure. The adoption process began, and Margaret emotionally gave her blessing, knowing that James could offer Lily a life of love, stability, and security. And when, a few months later, before the judge, Lily proudly declared, "My name is Lily Whittaker now." No one in the room had dry eyes. Because this was no longer the story of a CEO and a little girl, but that of a father and his daughter. A chosen bond. A healed home. A family born from a simple drawing, and an immense need for love.